is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Garrett here for the newest episode of Rad Company. Let me know who is here in the house because we have a pretty special show today, and it's one that you guys have been waiting for a couple weeks now, and it's finally here. So let me know who is in the house. I'll say what's up, and then we're going to bring our guest right in here because I am fired up to get this one going. Let's see who we got in the house. Tony, what's going on over there? Basement Blues, Afro Whale, what is going on? Quentin Movies, how are you? Vanderhoff, what is going on? Adrian James, Garrett Geezer, why am I so, I'm old? Is that what you're trying to tell me? What is going on? Hello, much blood, love, and light. Yes, thank you so much, guys. Again, come in and say what's up. I know this is a little bit early for my normal streams, but the person that's coming on here is on the West Coast, so that's even really early for her. So definitely pop in and say hi, especially if you're new to the show or to the chat. Love to say what's up to everybody. And again, like I said, we have a special one tonight. When I did Rad Company Season 2, I told you my goal was going to be to bring different people on the stream, not the people that you usually see me collab with, not other people that are doing exactly what I'm doing, but people in this community that are doing something a little bit different, which I think, really helps the community and people that I find are pretty damn rad on what they're doing. And I think I want to just get them out to anybody who hasn't seen them and just talk to them about what they're doing, how they started doing it, and things that they got coming up next. So I just want to bring those kind of people onto this season and showcase some different faces here on the channel. So really quick, I'm going to say what's up to a couple more people, and then I'm going to bring our guest in. Monkey, what is going on? Am I going to be a frog brother? Sure. Like for what? Halloween? I already was a frog brother for Halloween at one point. Corey Shannon, what's going on? All right. So I'm going to bring in our guest, and you may have seen her. She's got a pretty big following, especially on Instagram. That's where I found her. And I'm going to bring her in now, and it's going to be the first time I've talked to her outside of Messenger or anything like that and DMs and stuff. So, guys, warm welcome for Miss Kadi Video. Kadi, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here, guys. If you don't know Kadi Video, definitely follow her, at least on Instagram, because that's where I'm mostly doing things. I was on Twitter, but I wasn't really liking what was going on over there too much, so I just got out of there. So I'm doing most of my stuff here on YouTube and on Instagram, and her Instagram is fire. So Kadi, is that mostly where you're doing a lot of your stuff, or are you kind of all over the social media aspect?
It's mostly Instagram. Yeah, I've tried some of the other social media, but I always go back to Instagram. It's just the best for showcasing artwork. Right.
And that's exactly what you do. So if you guys don't know, Kadi Video is doing some great stuff when it comes to VHS. And growing up in the 80s and 90s, VHS were like the jam, right? Like we're never going to get that time back like it was when we would just go to the video store and just grab something on a weekend. And mostly, at least for me, and I'm sure she may agree with me too, but a lot of times you rented things was based on the artwork. Like you'd walk down the aisles, especially the horror section. I'll be like, whoa, what is this? What is this? Monkey shines. Look, there's a monkey on it with a knife. Like that was me. Like, did you kind of find that was how you thought about it too when you were that age?
Definitely. I mean, there were certain films that even would rent over and over again, partly because I liked the artwork, partly because I really liked the movie. And so, yeah, definitely. I know like the Star Wars VHS, I loved the artwork on those. The Indiana Jones, loved the artwork on those. Would rent them continuously.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a big poster guy and stuff too, so artwork is really big for me. So I mean, again, like a lot of those people that were big back then, like Drew Struzan, who did a lot of the artwork that we all loved, like back then, like going from anywhere like Indiana Jones to Adventures in Babysitting, like all those different things. He was the one doing it, and you could always get drawn to that artwork and stuff like that. And like I said, especially horror, being a kid. And had never seen a lot of these movies before. I was like, what is this? And like Return of the Living Dead. Look at this cover with the skeletons. Like, I got to see what this is, And what Kadi does is she kind of brings that back to life with her artwork when it comes to doing VHS mock-ups, basically, of not only some older movie, but mostly like movies that had never received a VHS before, and kind of putting your spin on it. Now, my biggest question for you is like, where did this start? And, how did you decide, hey, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, as kind of a small business for myself, rather than just like, did it start with you doing it for yourself, for your own collection, and then it kind of went from there?
It did start with me just doing it for myself. I actually started by doing Tenet. I had made, not the version that I had posted, with, like, the art, but a very rudimentary version of it where it looked kinda distressed, and I had a photograph on there, and I tried to make it look like one of those old '80s, VHS tapes, and then from there, I was just like, "This is fun," and I kept going, and then I was like, "Let me make several of these and put them up in a shop." And I had also shied away from the distressed look because I always really loved Suncoast Video,
Oh yeah.
and a lot of these, like, video stores, I love Blockbuster, I love renting movies, I have great memories of renting VHS tapes, but I also liked buying movies and that feeling of opening them up and having a really fresh, brand new VHS tape. So that's kind of what I wanted to emulate.
So not only they look like they're used and old like they used to, but now yours look like they came right off the store shelf, brand new. Now, when you decided to just do this, like, I'm just curious. I want to pick your brain on like the mindset of the first time that you said, you know what, man, I think I want to try to make a VHS box to just have in my collection, or to showcase in my movie room, or whatever it may be. Like, what was that kind of triggered? Like, that's what you want to do, just for yourself, at least.
So I had seen like some videos on how to do it, like with a template. And then I was like, well, that's really cool. So I want to try that out. And at the time, I really only had a vinyl collection. I didn't have a VHS collection. So I decided, all right, let me go and start up my VHS collection. I got a few of the little like mystery boxes that they had on eBay and
Mhm.
just felt like, oh, so nostalgic. Like, man, I miss having all of these VHS because I loved having the VHS tapes when I was young and I couldn't stand for the longest time DVD. I was just like, I'm not going to DVD. I am sticking with this VHS for as long as possible. And so kind of was just great to just be able to have a VHS again and then to make the covers. And so following that and building it was really a lot of fun. And that whole feeling of like putting it together, because I've always liked building things,
Mhm.
especially with paper. And so I was like, all right, this is cool. I did a few more different films, like Freaky, which was one of the
Mhm.
first ones that I had released. And so from there, it just kind of expanded. And then I just played around with the images more and more until I finally got my art aesthetic that I have now.
Mhm. Now, so did you like, were you always artistic? Like, did you go to school for that? Like, how did you decide, like, hey, I know how I can create this, and the effects, and draw these things out? And it's just wild to me. Like, did you have a background in this first, and then kind of took your creativity to utilize it in this kind of format?
So my father is a painter, like acrylic painter, and he also did like digital
Mhm.
paintings, as he called them. And so he taught me from a young age Illustrator and Photoshop. And then I took classes in high school and I took a few classes in college as well. So I didn't major in it, but it's always been something that I've worked on in my free time for my own like personal projects. So yeah, there's always been a little bit of practice and play with Photoshop and Illustrator.
Now, when it comes to the templates of these, now I'm going to showcase a couple now that I have just in front of me, just to show the diversity of like things that you're doing, right? So, for instance, this was one that I knew I had to get. I mean, the aesthetic alone just really screams like the neons, and it just reminds me of, just, this is just a perfect fit for this movie, and it's a new movie that came out, and I knew I had to grab this, and this is the Megan title that you just did recently. Like, that to me just looks so perfect. I mean, it kind of matches the aesthetic of a lot of things in my room, so it's easy to display and have it look like it fits right in. And not only do I like that you do these like really just original pieces like that Megan was. Like, I mean, that wasn't taken off of any design. That was like a straightforward, like, this is my vision, this is what I see, and I'm gonna do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
this wasn't a mock-up of anything that we've seen before. And what else I like, and I've said this a bunch of times in a lot of my different videos, is I'm like a huge sucker for anything like mashup related or anything that I can look at and be like, all right, well, this is cool because it's really this, and now we're doing it for this title or whatever. Like, I'm a sucker for that stuff. I have a podcast called the Rad Pack Podcast, and if you guys follow me on Instagram, like, I'll do like mock-ups of like all of us, like us three on the Rad Pack, like I just did one for Weekend at Bernie's, but it was Weekend at Justin's, and I just basically photoshopped like our faces on there. Like, I just love that kind of stuff. And this one I knew I needed to get to because I just looked at this and I said, oh my God, like, this would look perfect sitting next to my original. And that's this It one that you did. And I absolutely love the idea of this just basically almost going uniform with the original. Like, I love that, right? So, is that something that you're toying with? Like, hey, what else can I do where that kind of works for something else? And I think,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was you or not. I saw somebody recently do something for Scream. Was that you?
I had
Or no?
done some for Scream.
The
Yeah.
new one?
Yeah, I did. I did a
That
few for
kind of
Scream.
was it the one, did it kind of mimic like the part 2 or something? Like, that had all the floating heads at the bottom and stuff?
Uh,
I don't know if it was. I mean, there's so many people I follow that post different things, but it was kind of the end of the same idea where it's like, if Scream 6 came out, like, it would match these other ones pretty perfectly as far as the aesthetic of it.
yeah, I didn't try to like completely mimic the Scream designs. I wanted to kind of do like reinterpretations of them, and
Mhm.
then I wanted to apply those same reinterpretations to the previous Scream films as well too.
Mhm.
So
And
I had done a few of those.
I mean, it's so cool. And not only does she do kind of her own things and stuff, but she's also so giving that I had to grab this because, you know, VHS, and I've talked about this before. I had a pretty large VHS collection growing up, and I love them. And one of the things I regret the most is selling them off. And I did that because I was still living at home. I was really doing the VHS and the DVD thing at the time, and I was running out of room, like, with what I had to use in my room. So I was like, all right, I need to clear these shelves out with these VHS tapes and put all these DVDs that were on my floor on these shelves. So I had to make a choice, and my choice at the time, and I think it was '08 maybe.
Mm.
I couldn't give VHS tapes away at that time. They were just like worthless. Like, you go to
Yep.
a Blockbuster, a Hollywood Video, and they were like 10 for 10 for 10 or whatever. Like, they were just giving these things away. And if we only knew what we knew now, that things were going to like kind of turn around, you would have went to those things and just hoarded up on a ton of stuff. And I sold like probably 80% of my collection at that time, and for nothing. Like, I think I remember giving trash bags to this guy in like a parking lot full of tapes, I think for like $85 or something. Like, I must have gave him like 200 tapes, and mostly Horace, ones that I really regret giving away that are probably, would cost me a couple $100 just to get one of them back or whatever. So when I saw that you were also putting out or selling some actual VHS tapes sealed, which again is a pretty big market right now if you guys don't follow that. Like, sealed VHS is a pretty, hard to come by nowadays, and they're going up in value. Like, people are getting them graded and they're selling for like thousands of dollars. And obviously I don't have many sealed VHS in my collection, but when I saw that you had a stack of some stuff that you said, hey, I have this, and I think you even posted something like, I'm not going to scalp anybody, I'm going to sell them
Yeah.
to you at like my normal rate, right? Like, so I knew I had to jump on it. I grabbed The Exorcist, and it is the one that came out, and like, I saw it in the theater, the version you never seen. I think it was probably the late 90s, maybe early 2000s this came out in the theater, but I never owned this VHS ever. And to have it sealed, I thought it was something I needed to add to my collection because it was that full version that we kind of all wanted. So super cool that you do that. Now, where are you kind of coming across these stacks of sealed, VHS tapes? Because you had like Batman in there, Batman Returns, you had The Exorcist, all still sealed, and you said, hey, I'm going to throw these up on my site, and if anybody wants them, go. And you sold them at like your normal selling rate, which was huge. So where does somebody come about like multiple sealed copies of movies in 2023?
So I have a special source that used to work in the VHS industry, and that's where I'm getting those from.
I mean, that's cool because you literally could sell those for way more on eBay
Yeah, but I
when
didn't
you're
want
selling
to.
them.
I'm like, this is not about how much money I'm making. This is about making sure that people get them at a reasonable price.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's why I'm like, they're not going on eBay, and I'm not going to like charge a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, I mean that is super cool, guys. No, again, I have it down in the description box. If you want to look at her website, she's got a bunch of stuff up there. It's kadivideo.com, correct?
Yep.
Kadi
Yep.
video.com. And that's where you can buy all the stuff. And she might even have a couple stuff like this left. I don't know if they've all sold out or not, but I think she even had Salem's Lot on there and all that stuff
Yeah.
too, which is like one of my favorite movies. Was it the double disc one, double pack, or was it the a single? Do you remember?
I think it's
'Cause
a
I know they
double.
did
I think
multiple.
it's a
Yeah.
double.
So, super cool to have those up there, and, she obviously has her custom stuff up there as well, so definitely check those out. Now, let me ask you this, when it comes to I'm still just astounded by, like, anybody that's recreating these VHS tapes because for someone like me, um, I don't use Photoshop at all. I do a lot of my editing on my phone, but like even like I was talking about, sometimes I'll do those Rad Pack mock-up things with like License to Drive and all this stuff. And a part of me was always like, oh man, I would love to like put these on like a and make like a mock VHS and just have them the ones I've done like up there or whatever. And I look at this and I'm like, I don't even know how I would number one get the template for something of like this, and number two, know what kind of material I would even need, like this cardboard. And number three, like where do you print this? And my father and my family own a printing company. So I'm sure like if I really dug deep and been like, hey, how do I they could probably figure it out. But like, how is it for you to have said, okay, here's the template, here's how I'm printing this? Like, are you doing all this in-house or do you have to outsource all that kind of stuff?
So it is some of it's outsourced. I was able to thankfully pretty early on when I was doing a lot of tests with the paper and everything, find somebody who knew a lot about printing. And so through a lot of trial and error, I was able to figure out what it is that I needed to do, the kind of paper and um, like the print, the ink, all of that to figure that out. So it took quite a bit of time, but
I
eventually
bet.
I was able to figure it out.
So now when you're putting something out and you're running like a new line of like, let's say you said, okay, I'm going to do Megan. Now it comes with you taking the time, creating the artwork for that first, getting
Mhm.
everything down. Now, do you then have to outsource this, or do you now, because you've been doing this a while, have everything right there that you can print them and you can do this and cut them yourself? Or does this like every time you come up with a new idea, you have to go to your other guy or whatever, or whoever's doing this next part for you? Is that always like kind of how it works, or are you at a point now where you can kind of get everything done right where you are?
So it really depends. I can kind of get some of it done right where I am, but I also will go to my print guy and get things printed. And then from there, I have to cut and score by hand for those. And then I'm able to then kind of like test the product, make sure that everything looks good, take photos of it, and post it up to see what the reaction is. But that can take like about a week just because of everything else that's on my plate.
Right, right, and it's crazy too because we talked really quick before we came on, and you told me that this is not your full time gig.
No, it's not.
So the fact that you're doing this all on the side and after your full-time gig is up is astounding to me because it like you said, there's a lot of work that goes into this from step 1 all the way until, okay, it's ready to launch. Now, when it comes to the quantity of these things, are you making them like are they made to order or are you saying, "Hey, guess what? I'm doing this many and when it's gone and that's it," type of deal?
It's a mixture of, not really made to order, but pre-order and available stock. So for some things, I need to actually do pre-orders, and I would say that that's probably, half of it, and now is pre-ordering it and getting it all made and put together. And that's like with a set amount of stock that's available. So it's not just unlimited stock, like made to order, but rather a set quantity of pre-order available. And then the others are actually current available stock. And so I try to distinguish it by letting people know in the description shipping times. Not everybody reads the shipping times, but it's there to distinguish what is pre-order and what's current available stock.
Okay, I mean, because I feel like this, I don't know what if it was a pre-order. Again, I might have been somebody that didn't read, but um when you did the Megan one, I jumped all over. And in my head, I jumped on it and I thought for sure, like my friend had messaged me and he said, "Did you see this?" I said, "I did." And I said, "I'm gonna get it." And they said, "All right, you better jump on it because it's probably gonna sell out fast." So I made sure as soon as it went up, I grabbed that Megan one, and then I was on the site not too long ago. I think it was maybe yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's still there." Now, in my head, I'm thinking that this thing would have been up and out. Now, is that just a decision on you of like, hey, I'm going to keep it up because I think people would like this one. So I'm not going to make it as valuable as, hey, maybe something else I did where I'm going to make the run a lot smaller. Like, is that just something that you're making the decision, or did you say, you know what, it didn't sell as well as I thought that it would, and I just have extra stock still?
So sometimes, yeah, sometimes I order extra stock just in case to be able
Mhm.
to do a second release. And so it will be a split between my first available stock and then my second available stock. So that all depends on what quantity of things I have already printed and what I'm still waiting on getting printed for a second
Gotcha.
release.
Now, I haven't said, and I should have given full credit on this. So, the one of the main reasons I found you, and one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on, is because my friend Justin has been talking about your product forever, and he's part of my podcast, the Rad Pack. I don't know if you've follow his channel. It's Movie Watch Daily. I guess he's bought a lot of stuff from you, and he's the one that turned me on to all your stuff. And so I give him full credit of like me finding you and me getting this stuff and me having you on here. And when I got you to say that, hey, I'll be on the show, I texted him and I said, all right, buddy, I'm doing this one for you, pal. Like, because he's been such a fan for so long, and he's the one that showcased your stuff to me first. And I think he's even done YouTube videos like talking
Yeah.
about specific sets that he had. So there's a lot of sets that he has that at that point wasn't even aware of your product. And I was like, damn, like I think he has like a Midnight Mass set. I think the first time I ever was aware of you was he sent me an image for a Fear Street set that he grabbed, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been, and he's like, "Oh, it's so cool, man!" But it's like these things sell out so fast. And were those just like when you were doing those special like box sets and stuff? Was it kind of like that was like, "Hey, we're doing this is a limited edition. It is what it is. Like when it's gone, or at least for now," type deal.
So when those were being made, everything was being cut and scored by hand, and so I was only able to do so much at some like, for so long, and they were selling so quick that I was just like, "I gotta get a family member in here to help me out because this is, like, overwhelming," and I just didn't have the ability to scale further. I also was very limited on my available stock for VHS tapes. So even if I wanted to do more, even if I had the ability to be like, yeah, I can cut, score, and fold all of these, they
Mhm.
wouldn't have been a VHS tape to put in it. So since then, I've been able to actually scale a little bit more, and so with that, I'm able to have larger quantities and not have to worry about selling out as fast.
Now, is that because at that point in time, whenever that was released, were you just kind of getting the ball rolling with your stuff? So you were kind of, really just doing a lot of trial and error, troubleshooting, like how you were going to do these things. Where now you've just got a better system in place where it's not as drastic on you personally to like get these things done and whatnot.
Yeah, so it's a mixture of that and also the fact that now I have a source for VHS. Because before that,
All right.
yeah, without the VHS source that I have, it was just impossible. It's like I was
Mhm.
going to garage sales and trying to get whatever VHS tapes
Right.
I could get just so that I could complete a Fear Street VHS box set.
I didn't even think about that. Like that totally like went over my head. Like it's not, it's not easy to even find blank tapes, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not. So like I wasn't even thinking about that where it's like, hey, you've got to have hundreds of these things based on whatever you're selling or stock like and then just to be able to go somewhere and be like, all right, hey, just give me 100 blank tapes or whatever. Like it's that's not that easy anymore.
Yeah, it
Like you
isn't.
said, so were you able to find a source, right? Were you searching out one, or did you just happen to right place at the right time and be like, okay, this is going to work for me now?
I think it was a right place, right time kind of thing. I was contacting several people, and then somebody that I had contacted was able to hook me up with the source that I have. But I will say that for VHS, there still isn't any like manufacturing, except in China. And
Mhm,
I can just tell people right now that if you're thinking of going to China for tapes, it's a bad idea.
mhm,
A
mhm.
very bad idea. Yeah.
That is wild. I can't believe I didn't really even think about that. Now, there was something else that you did because I can remember Justin telling me, and maybe it's already out, and maybe it was Fear Street. I don't know, but there was one thing he sent me, and he was like, "Hey, I ordered this, and I can't wait." And it was almost like you had all the VHS tapes done, but then like there was one more at the end that was like blank or something because something hadn't come out yet. Now I don't remember what that was. Was that Fear Street, or was that something else that you had done where everything was done? The everything was like the illustration stuff around it,
Yeah.
but like the last part was not complete yet. Was that what it was?
Yeah, Stranger Things. So since
Oh,
the last
that's what it
season
was.
hasn't come
Okay.
out, it was a blank, but I wanted to have all of them there to kind of fit in and
Yes.
since I knew it was coming out.
So with that being said, so those they're already been pre-ordered, right? Now, have those not been shipped yet because the fact is you're waiting for the new season to so you can get your images down? Is that what is or are they already did you put something out and they're already shipped out and to the owners now?
Yeah, so they're shipped out and the last 2 have nothing on them. They're blank, and there'll eventually be, sleeves that can be put onto those once that season's all out and released, but
So is
until
that
then,
something where you're gonna go back and see who ordered these and then just ship them the remainders?
that was the plan.
That's a cool idea though. I mean, that's a real cool idea to do that. I think that just really is just, thinking outside the box and making them feel so limited and like, hey, I'm gonna have something, that no one else is gonna have. And, you know, what we got? There it is.
All right, here, I'll show you so that anybody that's watching can see what it is that I'm talking about.
So you're
All
saying
right.
that people have that already or no?
Yes. Yes. People already
That's
have
sick.
this. So it's this last one. I am competent. Hold on. There
No, this is great. I love it.
you go. So this one, these are completely blank. And
Nice. So
so nothing on the back either because there's no photos to be able to post yet. But once that season comes out and I make artwork for it, these will no longer be blank. And I guess you could
so
keep these sleeves if you wanted to.
Sh yeah, I mean, those that's a limited thing right there, it's
Yeah.
some exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
Now, just since it's there, what is like, for instance, can you show me, like, what one of the artworks in the season go looks like for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other editions? 'Cause, I'm sure it probably has some kind of, same aesthetic that in that set, correct?
Yeah. There you go.
No, that's sick. That's awesome. That's so
And all the
cool.
photos and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just that whole idea and then doing that box, like I can't even that to me is just so badass. Like, and then to have that big box that everything kind of fits in, like that's awesome. It's got the Ghostbusters gear on over
Yeah.
there. Love it.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of box sets.
Yeah, so no, same here. I love it. I say it all the time when it comes to wow. Other things, I'm always like, why do we get these things? Why can't they just put everything in a box? Like Scream Factory with their Chucky set or whatever. It's like I'd rather have these all housed together. And there's people online that will do that. Like, if you say, hey, I have this, they'll put box sets together. That's awesome, Katie.
Thank you.
And gang, I
Yeah.
haven't even said it, but check out the background over there. How badass is that in her background? I love that.
I love everything like 80s inspired.
I agree with you. Now we get a super chat coming in. And guys, I will get to some questions. I just wanted to make sure I was able to get her story for myself and for all of you. But I will take this one before the super chat runs out just to see, let me see. Jim, welcome to the show, man. Has there been any pushback from established IPs? And thank you for letting me design a poster for you. So there's some that Jim is obviously someone you know, correct?
Yeah. And
Now,
as for pushback, yes, there's been some pushback, like Paramount and A24.
well, well, okay, well, it's interesting that you say that because I was going to say one of the big things I was going to say is here's some stuff that I would like to see, right? Like what would I like to see from you? And in my head, I was thinking, okay, well, I definitely think I would love to have a box set of Pearl, X, and Maxine in like a set like that. That to me is like, oh, like if we can make the 80s aesthetic, like I love that. Now, with that being said, is that still something that you could probably squeeze out in some aspect? Because again, it's
No,
so
they
so
won't.
that set is never going to come out.
It can't. Nope. Unless
Ah,
A24 is suddenly like, hey, let's make a deal.
right.
And then I get A24 paid because I would.
Mhm, mhm,
It's just
mhm.
if
Of course.
A24 is here listening, of course, A24, I want them to get paid. But yeah, that don't see that happening in the near future.
Now, see that's a bummer because that was like one that I was like, oh, that would be so killer. And she must be waiting, like she must be waiting to do the box set because I haven't seen anything come through. So, but we got our answer on why that has happened, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate because again, and now all I say is I hope other people see this and like in A24, like, hey, if they're gonna do it or something like that, like let's go, like let's do. I'd take a Blu-ray box, I'd take a 4K box, I'd take a VHS box, whatever. Like, but I want all those things like housed in like one unit. Like, I don't want to have to go and just
Yeah.
have them all on a single thing or whatever. Like, I want a big set and say, this is the complete, you're not getting any more, blah, blah. Like, I love that stuff. So,
Yeah.
now let me ask you this as well. Is there anything that you've done that you've said, okay, this sold way better than I was expecting, or I thought this was going to be a huge one and it just didn't do as well as I thought? Because there has to be some kind of game plan and strategy going into this when it comes to certain titles that you're putting out, or is it just like you said? I think you've said before is that whatever you're feeling like doing, you're like, I'm going to try this.
Yeah, it is that. But there are times in which I did think that things would do better than they actually did. I can't remember now the last really big kind of disappointment. But there are times in which I will release something and I release it because it's like, I like this. I don't know if it's going to do well, and I'm not really too concerned about if it's going to do well, just
Hmm.
because it's something that I really liked. Um, I'm trying to think which well, like the Cape Crusader box set that I did, um, that one didn't do quite as well as I was hoping it would, but at the same time, I'm thinking I put a bunch of different Batman films in there, and so it was one of those where some people hate Batman v Superman, and they
Hmm.
like the
Hmm.
Nolan trilogy, or they hate all the other movies except for the Joker, and so that was something where I'm like, "All right, that didn't do quite as well, and it probably would have just done better if I had done them individually as opposed to just creating the box set." And actually, here's the box set.
All right. Look at
So,
that.
yeah, it
Now,
would
do
have
you have
probably done better.
somewhere in your house that you have all your stock? Like, is there somewhere where you're like, okay, I have to have all this stock here? And
So in terms of like storing what I sell, I have a place for that. And then in terms of everything I've created, I have shelving that it's like you can't see it, it's off camera, it's all over there. That has some of my favorite VHS tapes as well as the VHS tapes that I've created, at least most of them. Some of them I actually don't have copies of anymore, like
now,
physical copies.
do you have? Are you a collector and stuff still, or is it just mostly like you're doing this now for like between work and this, like your whole life is dedicated to this, or is there stuff where you're like, hey, I'm still able to do and buy and collect the things that I like as well, or is that kind of taking a halt to just having to just put stuff out all the time?
Actually, I think what's happened is the deeper I get into making things, the larger my VHS collection
Okay.
gets. My sources are is like, hey, by the way, I have this and I have this. And then I'm just like, man, where am I gonna put all of this? I've got so much stuff now.
So you're still actively buying VHS tapes based on
Yeah.
wow. Now, let me ask you this, and this was one that I had that I would have like. I am kicking myself so much for selling it for nothing, and it's one that I've always wanted back in my collection. And I don't know if you've seen it or you have it, but this damn Frankenhooker VHS where you press the button and it talks. Have you come across? Do you have that or anything? That is like
No, I
the
don't.
holy grail for me. And I look online and it's like to find one that actually works in good condition, like you're paying like $500, for it. And I was just so bummed out that I'm like, I cannot believe I let that go. Like, what was I thinking? And it was because I had it on DVD. So I was just kind of like, well, I guess I don't need this anymore. And so keep your eye out for that one if you see it.
Yeah, I know that I had some, it's gonna make me sound like a total geek, but I
Nah,
am. I
not
am
on
a geek.
not on this channel. Sound normal
But,
over there.
yeah, I had, Princess Mononoke on VHS, and I still kick myself to this day for having gotten rid of that. It's not about how much it's worth, it's
Right.
just a matter of that is a movie that I absolutely love, and I kick myself for just tossing it off to the
No,
side and being like, "No, I
I
don't need it."
I hear you. Like that's the same thing. Like with the Frankenhooker, I wouldn't even if I got it, it's just for me, and it's just such a cool thing. Like it's worth a lot of money, but that's why I don't have it because I'm like I'm not going to spend $500 on this. Like that's the problem is like I wish I could just find it, not to sell, but just the fact that I just want it back just because it's such a unique piece, and it just happens to go for a lot of money now. But and it's tough. Like I've kind of learned my lesson, and I see someone in the chat here is they said they never sell stuff now. I can't let anything go. That's a big problem for me too. Like because I kicked myself in the butt for what happened in my VHS collection. Um, I have a tough time letting
Yeah.
things go. Like even DVDs, like I'm toting them and storing them away before I'm getting rid of them because DVD itself is in the period of where VHS
Mhm.
was when I sold it. Is like you can't get anything with DVDs anymore. So
Yep.
what happens if I just get them rid of them all now, and then in 5 years, all of a sudden there's like a DVD boom again, right? Like then all of a sudden I'm like in the same boat. I'm like, why did I do that? Like, you never know because things come back around. Like that's what's
Mhm.
crazy. Like I would have never in a million years thought VHS would come back the way it did, and I'm like, is DVD on the trail? Look at, I've got cassette tapes over
Yeah.
here. Cassettes. Who would
Yeah.
have in a million years thought that
Yeah.
cassettes would be out? Who thought we would have a cassette of the movie Elves? Like it just doesn't make any sense that these things there's a market for this. So for me, I'm like, well, DVD is and CD is like that's got to be coming in the next 10 years. But the one thing I'll say about VHS, which in my opinion always stands the test of time, is with VHS tapes, they're more to me like not how they look, this, that. Yeah, you get a certain feel when you put a VHS tape in, but this is the only format that's like a legitimate display piece. Like you get cool box sets now that you can display on shelves, but 9 times out of 10, like any Blu-ray, like for instance, I'll just show
Yep.
this one. You can't stand it up; it just falls
Yep.
over, right? Like
Yep.
these, boom, you stand them up. I got some back there standing up. I've got some on these shelves over here. So that's what I love about VHS. And that's why I think they're always going to stand the test of time because it's really the only format that can be used as an art piece rather
Yep.
than just sliding in your shelf, right?
Yep. I actually had done, I don't have it over here, but at one point I had done The Boys, and I never released it, but I had on the side panels, done an image. So you put all of them together and there's an image. And so
That's
kind
awesome.
of like with books, I feel like you have space to use those sides to add even more art.
Mhm.
Whereas if you try to do that on DVD, it's it's really difficult, or even a Blu-ray, it's really
Right.
difficult, and that side panel's pretty much useless for art.
Mhm. And you can tell the way you're even doing those box sets when you open it up, everything's uniform, right? So it just looks really nice, and with the box over it, and you get that big artwork. I mean, that's a huge display piece all in itself. Um, but before we kind of move on, I'm gonna go back to the chat and just throw a couple things out there for you and see if there's anything that people are asking that I haven't touched upon yet. And I know I'm way behind. Let me see. Let me see. Some people said, I'm so happy to be on the stream. I got a new job today, and this is a great way to end the
Woohoo!
day. Thank you. Thank you. Congrats. Congrats. Let me see. Tony says Katie Video does some fantastic work.
Thank you.
Love the idea of the concept and the show. Thank you. This is awesome. Her setup is epic. It is.
Thank you.
Let me see. Okay, so this is the first time they heard about you. So yeah, follow Katie Video on Instagram, and also her website is katievideo.com. Vanderhoff says he's been following you a long time. Mika, what's going on? Hey everyone, big fan of Katie. What she's doing with VHS. I picked up quite a bit. She does, yeah. Mika also posts a lot of your stuff on her Instagram.
Yeah.
Let me see. Robert, what's going on? His case of great artist, amazing human. I probably own 10, 15 tapes. Yes, and that's another thing I was starting to bring up with this Megan is that I didn't know if this was a pre-order when I ordered it, but this came pretty fast. I mean, so I know a lot of times you said people aren't reading that's a pre-order and it might not get to them this week or whatever, but I mean, I think this came within 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Megan, I had already had everything ready, so it didn't take me too long to set up all of the orders for that one. It was that one, and there was a few other ones that were released around the same time that were not pre-orders.
So that okay. Let me see. Catch the replay. What's up, Mel? That's Mel over there from the Rad Pack. She's on another stream right now, talking non-G-rated things over there. Awesome. How I don't know if we're going to talk about it. Trust me, I don't want to talk about my age, but yeah, she remembers old school. She remembers Suncoast Video, which is pretty old school. Yeah. I don't know about Suncoast where you are, but all the Suncoast where I was, they turned to FYE. Is that kind of like across the board type of thing, or
yeah?
Okay, that's remember.
Yep.
And Suncoast was great, and I can have great memories there, like just buying specific things. Like I bought a big, well, it wasn't big, a Chucky doll from McFarlane Toys there. I mean, I did a lot of DVD shopping there, but Suncoast was always a little pricey compared to like other stores at the time.
But I liked it because of all the neon lights.
Oh yeah,
I mean
aesthetic.
That's what suckered me, right? I'm like, I need to be in here and I want to shop because of all of these neon lights. So even though other places were cheaper, I was like, it's just more fun shopping in here, and that makes a big impact as to whether or not you're going to buy something.
Yeah, Steve in the house says he used to work at Suncoast. That is awesome. Cool. That is awesome. Yeah, it had a great look to it, and not only that, I don't know where they were where you were, but they were the big places at the malls here. So like, if you're in the mall and you wanted to get a VHS or a DVD or whatever, like Suncoast was like the place you had to go, because in that mall, that's all we had for that kind of stuff. If you wanted to get a better price, you'd have to travel outside the mall and stuff. But on a Friday night when you had money in your pocket, you weren't leaving that mall, you know?
Yeah. And I was always at the mall. I was at the mall hitting up the Hot Topic and the Suncoast videos.
This is crazy. Rob, have we talked about this before? But yeah, that's my mall. That's the mall that I went to with Suncoast. So did we talk? Are you local or something to me? That's crazy. So Basement Blues also worked at a video store. What's up, Christian? Christian's in the house. He said, damn, that's awesome. I think he was talking about the Stranger Things set. But yeah, so Katie, let me ask you this. Anything big that you can talk about on the horizon for anything you're releasing? I saw that you just released a couple new things. I don't know if they just dropped today or this week or whatever, but you had a set or something, the Harry Potter maybe?
Yeah, so I have the Harry Potter set, and then I'm going to have the book sleeves that are going to be coming out, as well as Hunger Games. And I also have book sleeves or dust jackets, I should say. The proper word, dust jackets for Hunger Games coming up as well.
So those will fit right over the books if you have them. Is that what those are?
Yes. For Harry Potter, they will not fit over the UK editions. I only have one UK Deathly Hollow. So the others I don't have. So they're not, that's not going to happen. Sorry. At least not anytime soon. Apologies.
No, sometimes things happen, right? So you can only do what you can do. So anything else new coming up? People over here are saying, yeah, man, Lost Boys I would love. I mean, of course it's got a VHS and stuff, but that's my jam. So like anything with like some cool new artwork and stuff would be badass. But is there anything that you have in the works right now that you know is up and coming? Or like I said, it just depends on what you feel like doing?
Yeah, it kind of just depends on what I feel like doing. I have like a bunch of different ideas for films that I want to do. And then when it comes to actually what I end up doing, sometimes I'll be sitting at the computer with the idea that I'm going to do this particular film. And then suddenly I'm like, nah, this isn't working out, and I just change my mind and I do a completely different film than I had originally planned. Um, and sometimes it's just a matter of what did I watch on Shutter yesterday.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Now, did you, when you're in the process and you have an idea and you say, okay, here's the movie I want to go. Is there ever a point in time where all of a sudden it becomes, okay, what's my concept going to be? What's the artwork going to be? And
yep.
you get to that point where you're like, this isn't working. Like it's
Yeah.
not, it's just, it's done. I'm not happy with it. I know I can do better. And I'm just going to put this on hold until like, is that just how your creativity works? Where like, for instance, like on this It one, did you know right away, like, okay, this is my concept here. And that's why you did it, or had you done it prior and then you said, okay, I'm going to put out a different edition because I just had a better idea than what I might have done before?
So for it, that was my idea right away, and it worked out. Then for other films like the Invitation, I had done that
Mhm.
one. And then I wasn't really happy with what I had done originally. Tried it again, and I liked that one a little bit more. So it really depends. There are times in which I need to put things on the back burner. Sometimes it takes a few months, and then finally it just inspiration strikes, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm inspired today. Let me go work on that."
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, that's great. Now, let me ask you this, is there anything that you've done for your personal collection because you're like, I want this on VHS and I'm going to make it. And if I think it came out awesome, I'm going to put it out. If not, it's just for me. And that's it. Like, do you have stuff that you've done just for you that you've never put out to the public?
Most of it I have actually put out, even if it was just for me. And there are things that I've been wanting to work on and I haven't worked on yet. That would be just for me. But yeah, for the most part, I usually eventually put it up there for people to kind of see, at least on Instagram. Sometimes it doesn't actually end up in the shop.
Hmm. Now, did you do, somebody asked if you've done Barbarian yet.
Yes. I don't I don't have my copy here, but I did. I did do Barbarian.
Is it still available? Do you know, or it's already gone, come and gone?
Uh me
I mean, I have it
yeah.
pulled. I have the site pulled up right here. Now, did you do Nope yet?
I did do Nope, and that one was several couple months. How many months ago now? Time blurs. At least like 3 months ago, 3 4 months ago.
The only reason I ask is because I get my creative juices going, and I think to myself when I look at that poster back there, and I did a show on this after I saw the movie, and I'm like, once I saw the movie, I was like, it kind of reminded me of the movie. Kind of reminded me of like Jaws in the sky, like it kind of like that big blockbuster. This thing's chasing down the people, and then I did a show kind of dissecting the movie when it came out, and I said to myself, like, was that because we got the concept that it was going to be about aliens, and that was kind of the big swerve, like from the trailer. It was like, oh, this is definitely an alien invasion movie. It wasn't. It kind of swerved you, whatever. And then
Yeah.
looking at that poster back there, I kind of thought to myself, was he telling us what that was? You got Nope, the 4 letters like Jaws. He's looking up, kind of the shark looking up.
Hmm.
And then you got the cloud up above, which could have been like the person, like on the. So then a part of me is looking at that. I'm like, how sick would that be if it was almost like a Jaws, like if you made a Jaws inspired cover, but just like with him looking up and the logo kind of in the Jaws logo? Because that's what now I see when I see that poster. I almost feel like, was that like a Jaws inspired image, kind of like how in the movie that's what it almost became. But so to me, that's always what I thought. I was like, how cool would that be if it was just like a Jaws cover, but just him looking up instead of the shark or whatever. But so yeah, so you've already done Nope, so
Yeah.
that's come and gone. So what I can tell you what I see on the site right now. So I see the Harry Potter stuff here. I see the Craft. I see Don't Worry, Darling.
Hmm.
Dead Silence. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um,
I liked all
hard
those.
Hard Candy Tenant. The Hard Candy one's cool.
Thank you.
Um, do you know what I did? I haven't gotten, but I've been eyeing it. It's funny because people in the chat are gonna be like, Gary, you said you hated that movie. I didn't
Oh.
like that movie, but I love. Oh, there. What? It is kind of like that. Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
sick. Awesome, kiddo. That is awesome. Now, is that still available too, or I'm not even going to scroll through? Um, Freaky's still here. I know you did last summer is here. Blue Valentine.
Yeah.
The boy. All you the Okay, the Trick or Treat is gone.
Yeah, those are gone. Definitely gone.
Well,
Those
you know
went
what?
fast.
The one that I was gonna grab the other day is not here unless I'm on a different page. Um,
It probably sold out.
so I'll tell you which one it was, is the new Texas Chainsaw movie. Now, I didn't like the movie, but I loved what you did with the image. It kind of resembled like that old school media Texas Chainsaw image, but you had a different design of it, and I loved it. So a part of me was like, I'm gonna get this next time I do an order, just because again, I don't even know if that thing's ever gonna hit physical media or anything. So just
Yeah.
to have it with that cool image, but I don't see it on here, so it might be gone now.
Yeah, and I don't know if I have, any extra
Let me
prints.
see.
I'd have to check.
Actually,
I
hold on, I
mean,
just searched it. Oh, I can add it to cart right now.
then yeah, I must I'll have to check to see how many quantities I have left.
All right, yeah, it says add to cart. I just searched it in the search box, but yeah, that's a great image on there of that. It reminds me so much of the media book of like the one that I grew up with. So if this is still in stock, I'll definitely throw an order in on this one. And people in the chat, don't start going to get it all, so none left for me.
You probably should just like just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah, it's gonna say all of a sudden, like by the time the stream's over, it's gonna say sold out underneath of it.
Yeah. Oh, and I just
So
also wanted to show you too because I'm a huge Jordan Peele fan. I
oh
did Get Out as well in
hell
green
yeah.
because it's one of my like favorite movies. I've noticed that when I really love a movie, um, most of the time, if it's one of my like top picks, I'll go for green.
Green School, yeah. The images that you come out with are so great. Like that, just that Stranger Things stuff, the Midnight Mass one that I saw the image for, the Megan one, like it's you kind of have a specific style on a lot of those that you run with. Now, is that just something like I said, like were you like did you find yourself drawing a lot like growing up and this stuff? Like I mean, I could never come up with these images here. Do you find an image and then just like kind of digitally mess with it until it's the way you want it, or are you doing this from scratch straight up?
It's digital. It's
Okay. So I
digital,
mean, I don't
and
know
yeah.
how all that works. So like I don't even know how that would work. So I mean, do you get an idea, like an image, and then you just toy with it so much to kind of make it your own?
It kind of. I mean, I don't just kind of because I've seen other people try to just put a filter over things,
Hmm.
and so it's a process that's both digital as well as using actual like tools and digital painting. So it's like a mixed sort of medium of the two.
Now is have you ever thought about, well, obviously we've seen this, you've done dust jackets, you've done different things. Have you ever thought about taking some of your artwork and doing different things with them, like mini posters to get signed, or I saw that you did something with and I don't know if it was if you just collabed with them, but you did something with like some clothing.
Yeah, I have put, prints on clothing before, like the black phone. So I have a source for getting that printed. And it took a long time to find a good source for printing. So for certain things, yeah, I've done the sweatshirts, and then I've definitely done posters, and I've also had some signed, materials before too that I've sold on auction. And I have thought of what other things I could put artwork on. Just trying to figure out something that would actually be um, desired. Like people would actually be interested
Mm,
in it. I don't want to just put my artwork on like a keychain and then it's like nobody wants the
right,
keychain.
right, right. Of course. Yeah, yeah, no, of course. I remember the black phone image. I actually sent that sweatshirt to my friend Brandon because he's a huge fan of that movie, and I was like, "Did you see this?" And I don't know if those have even come out yet, or if not, or if they're gone. I don't recall, but I know you had said that they were coming at some point. And have they already come and gone? Are they still around?
Yeah, those came and they went. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do any sort of restock on those because it requires having like a set amount that I know, I need to
Mm,
order. So I normally
right,
for
right.
those definitely do kind of like a made to order kind of thing for those.
Mhm. So that's usually how those shirt companies run. Like it's like you pay for 100, right? And then if you want more, you have to pay for another lot, right? Correct? Isn't
Yep.
that kind of how it works? Yeah.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just so happy that of what you're doing because again, like I said, these to me are display pieces. Like you put this next to the original one, it just looks so killer. Again, you're taking pictures for Instagram and everything always comes out looking really nice. Like it's just really, really cool stuff. And what do you think about this brand? Do you feel like right now, do you feel like it's been pacing just kind of the same for a while? Or do you feel like every time you do something, things are just kind of moving up and up? More people are finding you, more people are purchasing this stuff based on what you were doing before? And then are you still looking at doing more like very limited edition runs? Because it seems like FOMO is just really strong with people. And I know other companies that do like these limited things that just like things just fly because people are like, oh, I can't miss that. Do you have any more, plans for anything like that?
I might have plans for limited, but normally I only do limited not because of the fact that it's limited edition, but because my resources are slim, or because it's special in the sense that it's signed or it's a handmade wooden box, like with the Midnight Mass. So
Mm,
those kind of like end up being limited quantity just because of the fact that the process of putting them together is so strenuous. Um, but otherwise, while I know that there is a lot of FOMO, kind of my goal is to really bring VHS to the masses. So whenever it is possible for me to do things that aren't limited, I try to go for it
mm.
where I can, because that's kind of my overall goal is to just get VHS in the hands of as many people as I can so that hopefully we can get VHS back in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just like a small little section at a Barnes and Nobles, like here, it's a VHS section, and it's just this
Right.
tiny little VHS section.
I mean, that was a big thing for a while when DVD was hot. There was a little period of time where VHS were kind of coming back for a second. Like I have like House of the Devil on like a limited VHS they did. I have Mondo did like a Maniac with Elijah Wood and it was like a purple VHS. Like I have that. The movie VHS they had a VHS copy of. So there was a point in time where they were inching towards that, but then all of a sudden now you're not seeing it as much. But you're seeing a lot more now in like the custom space like yourself and some other people that are kind of doing different ideas. And I just think it's such a cool concept. And for especially for display piece, it's really working now. With the business itself, like, do you think that this is anything that you could say, hey, I'm this is going to be my full-time business? Like, is that a goal of yours? Or you're just like, hey, I'm happy doing both? Or are you kind of like, it gets tough. It gets tough to try to manage both and not put where all of a sudden people are like, hey, you haven't released anything in 2 months,
Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard because I need to preface this with, I love my job.
Yeah. We all do, right? We all we
Right.
I'm not gonna say we all.
But,
People like to hate their job, but at the same time, I totally
yeah.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but with that said, with the "I love my job" out of the way, just in case, wink, wink, right? Um, I do, uh I would love to be able to do this full time. That would be ideal, but in order for me to do this full time, I know that there would need to be some major changes within the, distribution, like, field, within the
Right,
film industry.
right.
And so I need to keep pushing and striving for those changes to become a reality, I think, before that can be something that I can really accomplish.
Now, are you on a forefront of that kind of thing to try to get some things changed, or are you kinda just like, "Hey, I'm gonna back off, enjoy what I'm doing here, and not push any, limits?" Or are you kinda like, "Hey, I want things to change. I wanna figure out how to, do this a little bit different," or whatever?
I definitely wanna push things. I think that's kind of why sometimes certain IPs are like, "Don't touch this," because I push too hard.
Right, right, right,
But,
right.
it's part of my end goal, so I continue to push because it's what I wanna see, and I know that there are a lot of people within the VHS community who also want the same things that I do, and so I feel like, especially at this point with over 60K followers on Instagram, that I'm kind of in a position where I have to be a little bit responsible for kind of making that push as hard as I can,
Mhm.
um, because other people might not really be able to do it as hard.
Right, and it's crazy that we live in a time, and it's good and bad in a way, right? Like it's we do live in a time where where someone that does have a following like that, like, can move the needle a little bit, right? Like, and that's all it really takes is like they look and they're like, okay, well, there's a lot of people that like this person, a lot of people that may be buying this person's product, like that could help us in these couple avenues, right? And even if it came to like even people outsourcing to you, right? Like that's another whole, you know, situation, a scenario that would be huge for you, right? Like people look at what you're doing, you say, hey, well, we'll just pay you to do this for us, right? Like that's huge.
Yeah.
Um, which I think that is probably even a bigger opportunity that you might see even before the other stuff kicks in, which would be, hey, it's a win-win, really.
Yeah, and I'm definitely also really trying to push to see what I can do in getting some independent films put with official releases. Uh, that's a bit of a slower process, but I already have one that's
Nice.
coming out, and so I'll be able to give more details on that um, soon. And I'm hoping, for more official releases.
That's great. I mean, I've learned so much just talking to you, and I just totally respect what you're doing. It's huge for the community, like the collectors that we are. Like you said, VHS meant so much to us, and to have these cool editions up there on the shelf and showcased on a shelf or in your backdrop or whatever, it's just really really cool. And you're doing great work over there. It's wonderful. It's been great talking to you. Before we end, though, I just want to go through a couple more questions that pop through, and look at this. Michael Ray Bauer. What is going on, man? You do owe me some swag. I need a Willie's signed poster from you, bud. Hey, thank you so much for coming in. Love you too, man. Love you too. Steve Peekaboo. He is Steve Peekaboo. He wants to know, is that limited edition trick or treat gone for good? It says sold out on the site. I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I need to check my stock and see if there's any possibility for like a future run.
Now, was that something that was technically limited because of the coloring on the VHS?
Yeah.
So now, would it be any possibility where you might? Because again, I think that no matter what it is, I don't care if it's this, I don't care if it's this, whatever. People love the things that are limited, right? Like there's people now that are grading anything, right? If it's a low quantity of something, they're grading it and hanging it up and saying, "Hey, this is worth this much."
Yeah.
So for you who did an orange box trick or treat, right? If all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna put this back out, but I'm gonna do it in a purple. So I differentiate that first run, for some. So I mean, or hey, I'm just gonna do it in black. But if you have the orange one, like that's a more rare piece, right? Like I think people and collectors like that.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they've got something a little bit better than maybe the other guy or whatever. But like, has that been something you've thought about from like a collecting standpoint where like, oh, I
Yeah.
can put it back out, but you missed out on the orange one kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I've definitely done that, especially with the trick or treat in the past. And also part of it too is just because of the fact that even with my new sourcing and everything, orange is something that I only have so much available. And I also want to do limited edition runs for other titles as well using orange. And so
Mm,
they can't all just be trick or
right.
treat. So yeah, there are set numbers for certain tapes.
Now, collectors out there, a lot of them are completionists when it comes to a lot of things. Um, do you have customers that you're like, this guy buys everything I put out, or this person is always something like no matter what I put out, like they must have everything I've done. Like, have you noticed any of that where
Yeah.
there's
Oh,
people
yeah.
out there that that have been like,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
got everything Katie videos done. Like that's great for you, right? Like, but that's the thing, like that's the mindset of collectors, right? Like there are those people that need that. And hey, I fall in that boat sometimes. For someone like you, I could have been that person, but I didn't find out until things were already gone, right? So
Yeah.
if you were there from day one, you might be like, hey, it's not that hard keeping up because she releases something every month, and I just got to make sure I have money for that. And it's just really cool as a creator to be like, wow, like there's this many people love what I'm doing that they're literally buying everything.
Yeah, no, there are definitely people who have titles that I that I released, and I can never release again. And they're also for some of those extremely rare, like there's only 30 copies of them. Um, like, well, I better not name the name because the director had
Yeah,
messaged me and was like,
yeah,
"Don't have my artwork on there." And I'm like, "Okay, I
yeah.
won't." I
So
love
then
you, by the way.
so there's been times that you've actually had to pull things.
Yeah, yeah. There have been times in which I've had to pull things, but there was a film that I had released very early on, one of the first few films that I ever, did, and it had a purple cassette. It was a pink tape. It was a very particular film, and this was back, when I forgot the year, I started 2020? So, yeah, in fact, I think Movie Watch Daily has it.
Oh, Justin, he's probably a completist, to be honest.
Yeah, and
I'll have
there's
to
only,
find
like, 30 some copies of it, and that's it.
That's so funny. So I'm actually going to Justin's house in April. We're all meeting up, and the Rad Pack's going to be at Panic Fest in Kansas City. It's the first time we've all met up in person ever. So we're going to do like a live show together and all this other stuff. So it's going to be really cool. But I told him, I said, I can't wait to get into that playhouse you live in and see all the stuff you have. Like, I'll find all those. I'll be taking pictures. I'll be posting them. I'm gonna see what he's got over there. He's got a lot of stuff in that house, and I'm dying to kind of see what he's got in there.
Yeah, just
So
message him and he'll ask him,
so
what, pink tape is there?" Like, well,
I will.
it's a purple tape with a pink cover. Which one is it?
I will. You know
He'll
what's so
tell you.
funny is that people watching right now, like he's gonna message me and be like, "Dude, why is everybody messaging me this question?" Right? That's what he's gonna say because everybody watches. Like, I'll message Justin and find out. So he's gonna be like, "Why is everybody doing that?" That is so funny. Yeah, guys, message Justin and ask him about Katie video. Say, "What's the one with the pink tape?" And you
Purple
know what
tape,
else
sorry.
too?
Yeah.
The purple tape. I forgot to mention this to the chat and everybody else, and you is that I forgot we're simulcasting on Twitch for the first time ever tonight. I've never used it before, but I linked it to this show. So if anybody's like a Twitch fan, I've never really played in that realm, but it was easy for me to attach my stream to a channel over there. So if anybody's watching over there, what's going on? And if you like Twitch, go over there and search for the Rad Pack, and that's where I'm going to have like different interviews and then Rad Pack episodes. So if you guys are Twitch fans, you can check it out. And if anybody goes and looks, just let me know that it's coming up clear because I can't see what's going on over there. But first time. Another question though, right here is from Perry, and she asks, "What are the auctions and movie club on your website?"
Okay, so for the auctions, sometimes I'm able to get a director to sign an item, and when that happens, it's like maybe at most 3 VHS. Usually it's just one. And so I'll put up an auction for the weekend and I let everyone know that this is going to be up for auction. Like Mike Flanagan, I had a
Ooh.
signed Dr. Sleep that was up for auction. And once that auction's over, the person that wins it gets sent the item, and talk about limited edition. That's very limited. Then for the movie club, that is a sort of like surprise VHSs that you get, and those are at least a single tape in there is not going to be one that's been put on the website yet, or one that may not ever be put on the website, depending on how popular or unpopular I think the title is. And so those get released before anybody else can grab it. And then the other two are either movies that are going to be released that week or movies that I've already released.
So is that almost like a subscription service that they get
Yeah,
monthly boxes?
yeah,
That's
it's a
cool.
monthly
That's
box.
awesome. That's a great idea. I mean, it keeps people engaged. It keeps things flowing. I mean, Gus, what's going on? Welcome, man. Carlos, what's up, dude? Um, Mama Blu-ray is in the house. What is going on, Mama Blu-ray? Make sure you guys watch the replay because we're about to probably shut it down because I don't want to take up too much of her time. Like I said, it's like dinner time over there for her right now. So yeah, so Basement Blues is right. Like that the collector mindset, like we said, is like people hear limited edition and those they're gonna jump on. And guys, to be honest with you, after talking to Katie tonight, like if she drops anything, so make sure to follow her on Instagram at Kadi Video. Make sure to check out her website. If you see her about to drop something and you have some kind of like, I kind of want this, like it might be something you want to jump on because, like she said, there's been times where she's released something and had to take it right down. So the faster you buy certain things, the more apt that you're gonna get something that may like leave the store quickly or whatever, right? So some of these people like Justin with his pink tape or whatever, his purple tape, like, he has stuff that's never going to see the light of day again. And I'm sure maybe when you do some of this stuff, there might be other times where things like that happen. But so that's why, like I said, like don't wait on a lot of this stuff. If it's something you're like, oh, I really want that. Like I wasn't going to wait on Megan. I saw that cover and I was like, this thing is not going to sell out without me getting one. So I kind of would say keep your eye on her stuff and make sure you're jumping on that. Look at people already trying to place orders. Look at this. Thank you, Perry, for checking it out. Thank you. Thank you. Let me see. Justin, lock up your Kadi Video types and get rid of it. I stopped putting them in my bag. I'm gonna put that purple one in my bag before I leave. No, but Kadi, again, thank you so much for coming on here and hanging out with us. And hopefully you had a good time here. And like I said, I definitely know the chat was excited to have you here. And I also know that people on the replay are going to be excited to listen to what you have to say because your story is super interesting. And that's the type of people I wanted to bring on this season, were people that were just doing something different and doing it right, and things that I see and I'm like, oh my God, this is something unique and other people need to kind of see this.
Thank you so much for having me on. And I will say that as a fellow collector, you are right about the limited edition. But I think also because there have been so many times in which I haven't gotten my hands on things, that's
Right.
kind of why sometimes I'm like, I got to be careful with what I make limited edition.
Yeah, I mean, from a creator standpoint, I totally get it because you look at it from two ends of the spectrum. You're like, I could sell these out quick, boom, here we go, everything's sold out, good for me. But then you're kind of like, but more people want it, so why am I going to limit that, right?
Yeah,
And then what
it
happens
depends on
if
what it is.
right? And then there's sometimes like, then all of a sudden, if you what pisses people off even more is when it's like limited edition, first time ever that I get this, then it sells out, and then 4 years later you release more. Then that's when they get get mad, right?
Yep.
Because there's been companies that have done that where you buy something right away, and then in 4 years they go out. So then all of a sudden theirs is not as limited as it was sold to them for,
Yeah.
So that's tough too, because when you have something that will sell and you're like, well, I kind of promised this was going to be the only batch. And how do I kind of work around that where I want more people to have it, but I don't want to come off like I was untruthful. And that's why maybe something like changing the color of the tape might be just kind of a happy medium where it's like, you want a trick or treat, you got it. But, unfortunately, this is to be black, which I think is a good, it could work around kind of, that. Have you ever gotten any like nasty messages about people that maybe didn't get a title or something like that?
Yes. So the original designs for the Fear Street, in terms of like that old box style where it was chipboard, that's never coming back because that was a nightmare to build. So instead, they're all now like that was a totally different style when I had done that. And yeah, so certain things won't be coming back like that.
No, I
Because
mean,
that was just like too much of a hassle. But then making it into like a different style or like one of these kind of like style boxes, like that's fine.
those are
And those are
great,
not
those
limited.
boxes. How many of those big boxes like that have you done? Like, I mean, not that big, but you've done that. You did Batman, you did Fear Street, right? Those are all in boxes, correct?
Yeah, and then Twilight.
So those that you've done about 4 or 5 box sets since you've started?
Yeah. And then I did the Midnight Mass, the Bly Manor, Haunt, Haunting of Hill House, and those were wood boxes.
Wow.
Handmade, like wood boxes.
Now, man, I wish I had that. I got my hands on that Midnight Mass. That show was like my favorite show of like all last year. So, now when you do those, and we're gonna end this soon. We're gonna end this really quick. But when you do those limited things, and for whatever reason, I don't know how, if you contact them or whatever, like how you get someone to say, "Oh yeah, I'll sign these for you." Do you keep one for yourself every time that happens?
Usually,
I mean, I would hope so. I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah, yeah, like,
Yeah.
Mike P. Nelson had even signed one specifically for me, with, like, The Domestics and, Wrong Turn,
Nice, nice.
so
Now you're trying to tell me you didn't keep a Flanagan?
I no, I think I did. I think I
Oh,
did
I
keep it.
hope so.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course,
man,
of course.
that would be
No, I
I
got
mean,
rid of it, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, like, "Oh, I'm gonna give it to everybody else." No, that's a great one to have. I mean, he's super hot right now with everything he's touching, so to have that now, I mean, couple of years, people might not be able to even get to him, so, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a great one to have for sure. But Katie, again, anything you wanna say, before we get out of here? Because I know you have to probably go to dinner or whatever's going on over there, and where are you? West Coast, right?
West Coast, yeah. So, not quite dinner just yet, but very soon, yeah. Um, I guess the only thing I really want to say is, thank you to everybody that has followed me and everybody that's new that's following me. Keep VHS alive, and,
I agree.
keep keep pushing too for VHS and the best that you can. And I know there's a lot of people who will be like 480p. Why do I want to watch a movie in 480p? And to that, I say there's something beautiful about analog.
Mhm,
So
mhm. Gives you a whole different feeling. It brings you back into like a simpler time, I feel like, where, you no matter what it looked like, it's the fact that you rented it or owned it or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, I get to sit down in my own house with no distractions and watch this. Like there is a very different feel when you throw something like that on. So
yeah,
um again, thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for so much for being a guest here on the show.
thank you for inviting.
Chat, thank you guys for hanging out, and anybody on the replay, definitely thanks. And go find her on Instagram. Check out her website, Katie Video. And I always forget to say this, but make sure to like the stream. It helps the show out. Leave some comments if you want, and I'll make sure to try to answer any questions that you guys have on the replay. And this is Garrett at Born to Be Rad. And like always, stay